Okay.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to Fright or Flight, the podcast where we rank, recap, and review. Why are you looking at me like that?
Sorry.
I feel like you're waiting for me to fuck up.
No, I wasn't.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to Fright or Flight, the podcast where we rank, recap, and review every horror movie in a given franchise.
I'm Jumpscare Jer and/or Jeralyn, the Fright of the podcast.
And I'm Frankie. I'm the Flight of the podcast. And this week, listeners, we're going back to the Ghostbusters and doing the last episode of our season.
This is the final episode of our Ghostbusters season. I'm so sad to let it go.
I mean, it's been a fun ride, obviously, as you guys can tell by looking at the table. Jeralyn was much anticipating this episode.
I was.
The season.
Yeah, I was. I was very excited to cover it.
Yeah.
It makes my young heart happy.
But now it's all over, and we're doing Ghostbusters Frozen Empire 2024 release, and I mean, I think we've had a season of ups and downs. I think me and you have both liked most of the movies in the franchise. Some of them are quite polarizing on the amount of people who do or don't like them.
Yes, that is true.
And today we're going to cover another one that I think this one, to me, I hope this doesn't sound negative or anything, but is one of the more safe Ghostbusters movie. I feel like it's kind of hard to have like a strong opinion
I agree.
negatively about this movie.
I mean, there are definitely things that I definitely like about it, and there are definitely things that I don't necessarily like about it. Mm-hmm. But overall, I was pretty happy with it. Yeah. It still appealed to me as a fan.
Yeah,
so
I had fun. Bailey,
that's the best way to describe that movie. It's just fun.
How do you feel about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, Bailey?
Oh, I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I thought it did everything that it needed to do as, the next installment in the Ghostbusters. We're revisiting New York, so we revisit a bunch of familiar things, familiar characters. They're not limited to just cameos now. They're actually active participants in the movie, and that's really fun. Besides Sigourney Weaver, we don't see her hardly at all.
After the successful release of Ghostbusters Afterlife in 2021, Dan Aykroyd expressed interest in producing more sequels. In June of 2022, the film was confirmed by Jason Reitman under the working title Firehouse. Super fun. This time, Gil Kenan would take the director's chair, who had co-written Afterlife with Jason Reitman. And they co-wrote this one too, Frozen Empire. They're kind of a team.
Yeah, I like it.
You might recognize Gil Kenan's name from his work on his first feature film, Monster House.
Love that mother effing movie.
Yeah, it's a 2006 animated horror movie. I just watched it for the first time, I think, last year with Bailey.
Are you for realsies? Because that was a childhood favorite of mine.
Yeah, it was childhood trauma for me, but I didn't really like the movie. I did like it.
I loved it. It's a dark story. It's very twisty. It's very sad when you find out what happened to the house, but really the woman who is haunting the house. So sad. You
know what? And actually, I think it's actually kind of scary. For a kids movie, it's not super safe. They don't hold your hand through it. They kind of treat it seriously. This is an animated horror movie for kids.
Yeah.
And they don't pull any guns or anything.
Yeah, they don't. They make it really spooky. But they do have a lot of kid humor. I mean, the whole comment about the uvula and I thought only girls had that. That has stuck with me my entire life.
What's funny is my family and I have quoted that movie my entire life.
Well, the filming for Frozen Empire began in March of 2023.
Wow.
Releasing just under 1 year later.
It felt like this was really big. They had a lot of big things happening.
Yeah, I'm just impressed that they, the movie came out less than a year after the first day of shooting.
Yeah.
That's just so insane to me. That's
well,
great.
Especially with all of the strike and everything happening.
Yeah,
because this was happening during the strike too. So, I mean,
they must have wrapped up filming before the strikes happened, I guess.
Thankful, because that means we would have had it later than now. Yeah.
They built a set for the classic Ghostbusters Firehouse with amazing attention to detail, as you will see in this clip.
My favorite thing is that every time I'm on set, I go and explore everything over here, because even the papers that will never ever be shown on set actually have stuff on them.
Right.
I found little papers that have Ghostbusters logos on them for writing checks, and then I found we have.
She tried to cash one of the checks.
Yeah, I it
It hits me every day when I walk out.
I'll bet.
Yeah. it's just hyper accurate. And like, you've been on a bunch of sets, Usually you walk in, you're like, oh, I could see how this would look real on camera, even though in person it's like, this feels 1,000% real.
Yeah.
I love that.
Really neat, huh?
I love attention to detail, continuity, all of the things. It's just fully I want a check with the Ghostbusters logo on it. If I could have a checkbook, I would do it just for that.
I mean, we've all seen like behind the scenes footage of like a lot of blockbuster movies nowadays, and it's just a bunch of actors standing in front of a giant blue screen, you know?
Or green screen, yes. Like it's just screens, and then they wear like the thing around their head and the whole bodysuit.
Yeah, but no, they're there. Like that's a set, but it's like it's all there. Like when you're there, you're in the Ghostbusters world. And I think that's so neat. That's so cool.
That is very cool, especially with the way that the 2016 Ghostbusters went, going to, the 2021 released and to this one. I feel like they have done so well with these last two movies that, they're introducing those digital effects as well as still doing a lot of practical effects, which is just, you can't beat that. A good mixture, a good balance is perfect. I think that if you do all digital, I mean, yeah, it's impressive, but I mean, we get that with Marvel movies. It kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you know that it's like completely fake, but this one, I feel like they did a really good job of making you feel immersed.
Yeah, that clip is from Adam Savage's Tested YouTube channel where Jason Reitman kind of like lets him explore a little bit about the firehouse, and that's the working title for Frozen Empire. And you see McKenna Grace there too. She kind of just shows up, and she seems so enthusiastic about being involved in the Ghostbusters to begin with. I mean, she has a photo of her when she was a kid, standing next to an Ecto-1 in the Universal Studios parking lot. So that's so cool.
She also has a photo, I think, on her Instagram that she posted of just her through the years of like a cute little Ghostbusters like girly dress, with like cute little ruffles on the edges there with her blonde hair. And I was like, that's gonna be my future child, like 1,000%. Like I will have a Ghostbusters birthday for you. You bet.
I think it's amazing that she is now a Ghostbuster. And she comes from a history of loving the Ghostbusters. But I will say, like, her path here was very troubled. She had a lot of health issues growing up. When she was 12, her father, who is an orthopedic surgeon, gave her a hug and noticed that something wasn't right.
Oh.
She said that, I remember my dad hugged me and was feeling my back and said, "You have scoliosis." I didn't even know what that was, she said. I didn't think it was a big deal. I thought I was fine and thought he was just being weird, but it turns out I had scoliosis.
Man, that's crazy. Because scoliosis, I mean, I've seen some really intense cases where, I mean, those people cannot, like, they cannot walk right, they cannot sit right, cannot sleep right. So it can definitely impact your way of living 1,000%.
For sure. And I mean, it impacted Grace. By the time she was 16, her scoliosis began to affect her work. For red carpet events, she would have her dresses altered so that one side was longer than the other to camouflage the scoliosis. On stage and in front of other cameras, Grace would stand as straight as she could, but by the end of the day, she would be tired and in pain. She said, I had started to notice just how crooked I was standing, and there were so many people around me, said Grace. I'd get in trouble on set all the time. They'd always be telling me, stand up straight, stop slouching. McKenna, you're on your mark, but you're all the way over here. We need you to stand up, and so on. After finding the right surgeons, the doctor performed spinal surgery, inserting metal rods and screws across 6 vertebrae to straighten her spine.
Jeez. And for her to be that young to experience back surgery.
A teen this whole time.
That's insanity. Especially with her being so, I feel like I've watched this young woman grow up. Because she's always the younger version of somebody. She's always the kid version of these famous actors in TV shows, movies, what have you. And to see her in this movie as like the leading lady, that's awesome. Love that. And that's just sad that she's like, so like, she's not even 18. Like she's still 17 and she was dealing with this like before, like she's even reached her adulthood, but hopefully that frees up her adulthood a little bit more for her so she can live a more normal life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's kind of interesting too. You're talking about how young she is when they filmed Afterlife in 2019, but it didn't release. It took a while to release because of the whole pandemic thing.
That's true. Man, they have had so many obstacles. For
sure, yeah. So the movie started 2019, but they didn't start working on Frozen Empire until 2022, and they didn't start filming until 2023. So that's why there's such a visual difference between seeing her age specifically from
and
Afterlife
podcast.
to for sure, because there's actually like over a 4-year span.
Yeah.
In the movie they say it's 3 years.
I was gonna mention that her physical appearance does change. I believe McKenna Grace also got veneers between, because she looks much younger and her teeth look more like, I don't know, what you'd imagine an innocent, I think 12, 13-year-old teeth would look like, kind of filling in, growing still. And now she has veneers, and I was like, whoa, there's a visible difference with her mouth there. And I know that's like a weird thing to say or notice, but I just could notice. I was like, there's something, they look too perfect.
You got braces at some point, didn't you?
I was like, or her teeth are just too perfect. Like, what's up? And so I had to look it up. I was like, did she get mouth work? And I was like, oh, okay, she did. Totally fine. It just threw me off. It's still hard to register the time difference between like how long it takes to make the
she
films
looks
and
like a little kid in Afterlife.
Yeah, and in this
over
one,
here,
she
she's
looks
like
like
a
a grown
teen,
woman.
yeah.
And I'm like, stop it. Stop growing up. I hate it.
And it's exacerbated for me and Frankie, at least, because we didn't watch Afterlife until a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And that was like our first introduction to like these characters, and then we watched Frozen Empire
the week after,
and we're like, oh my god, like they're
Stop
like
it.
5 years older. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's why because Finn Wolfhard, for example, is in the Stranger Things series, and they're not even releasing the next season until next year. And it's like, they're gonna be so grown. It's gonna be so hard to
Will especially. Something about Will. He looks so much older.
Right. Well, because if you think about that poor little boy's bowl cut.
Yeah.
He went from a bowl cut to I don't know, something completely different, and those cheekbones. Yeah. And then Finn Wolfhard, he looks the way that he looks now, completely different from when they started as well. He was a baby. He was 12 when they started that show, and look at him now. Crazy.
Well, with the surgery being a great success, McKenna was able to reprise her role for the much anticipated sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Love it.
Everything she went through. Here's a little clip of the things that she's still scared of right now.
I'm terrified of needles. I jump around the room like a baby whenever I have to get my blood drawn. And I had a very intense surgery, and that was my biggest fear going into it was getting the shots. I don't mess with needles. I don't sleep in the dark. I hate the dark. I hate open doors. I don't like open doors.
You're afraid of a lot of stuff. Not just one thing.
I don't like flying.
Oh, that's a fourth.
Open doors are freaky. You don't get freaked out if
No.
you're just sitting in your room and there's the door's just opened a tiny bit?
No.
You don't feel like somebody might be watching you?
Well, they're talking about irrational fears, needles. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
That's
And
rational.
flying, I know, I understand a lot of people.
Oh,
But the open doors is interesting. That's
Yeah.
you don't like being in a room. When you're sleeping, you want your door closed.
If my door is opened, I can't sleep.
What about when you were really young?
Whenever I was really young, what was I
Yeah, a
afraid
little
of?
kid. When you went to bed, when you were a little kid, did you always want your door closed?
I could not tell you. I slept with my parents I think the last time I slept with my parents was last month because I get scared. Yeah.
She's adorable.
I love her.
Also, I'm afraid of the dark as an adult, so she just looks so grown. I hate it.
Yeah, that interview, by the way, fantastic interview. Paul Rudd, absolutely hilarious in it. So if
He's
you guys ever have
always
some time to look it up
hilarious.
on YouTube, it's a great watch. But yeah, super relatable. She's scared of needles. I know I'm scared of needles.
Okay, yeah, I dissociate whenever I get my blood drawn. We've talked about this a little
for
bit
sure,
before.
yeah.
You faint when you get your blood drawn. I thought I was going to, but I didn't. I looked away, got my blood drawn, but I definitely dissociated, was out of my body. So I get it, but I also have tattoos, and people are like, that's weird. What do you mean? And I'm like, that's completely different.
How do you guys feel about the open doors statement?
I get it. I don't really like open doors either. But it also, I don't know. It's I can't explain. It's not even that. Because if my cabinets are open, it makes me, it just drives me insane. I have to close all of the cabinets, the doors, everything needs to be either closed or if my door is kind of halfway, it bugs me. It's more of I need things to look
But it doesn't
uniform.
scare you.
It doesn't scare me necessarily. Now my closet door being open, that does kind of freak me out.
Really?
I wonder why.
Not that I have monsters in my closet, but I'm scared of because I'm terrified of the dark. So at night, if my closet's just a little bit cracked, I'm like,
I'm scared someone's gonna come out at you.
maybe. I mean, I don't know. You never know. Could have a little ghosty, do a little pulling you out of the bed kind of thing. You never know. I don't trust it.
Yeah, the concept of open doors does terrify me, actually, especially like at night. I would not be able to sleep with like any door open in my bedroom at all.
Well, some of the themes about this movie I thought were very charming. Like, I think the movie overall is one of the most okay movies I've ever seen. Where like it's completely non-offensive and it furthers the story just a little bit, but it gives us some more time with these characters and they have character development.
Yeah.
It's something that we don't see a lot in the first Ghostbusters movie. I'm gonna be real. I do love it though, guys. Don't come after me. But one of the first things I want to talk about is this movie. It has a teen romance.
Teen romance.
We have a little bit of a spark between two characters of this movie. There's kind of a teenage love story after being kicked off the ghost-busting team due to an age discrepancy. Phoebe goes to the park to play some chess against herself, but meets an unexpected stranger in Melody, the ghost. Super cool to have a ghost character in this movie. At first, Phoebe seemed a bit disappointed after realizing it wasn't her late grandfather moving the chess pieces, but over time, Melody and Phoebe started bonding with each other. Melody has this background of dying in a fire, setting off a match that caused the house fire, leading to the demise of her and her family. However, she hasn't been able to pass on like they have. She believes in Garaka to open a portal for her to pass, but Melody needs to gain Phoebe's trust to trick her into setting Garaka free. What do you think about their little relationship with each other?
It really didn't do anything for me. I'm not going to lie. You don't have enough time to develop it, so it kind of felt rushed. So, also, the only time that we've ever really gotten... Well, actually, no, I take that back. Because the library ghost is like a woman, form. And then later she's like, and turns into something. But the only really time that we've gotten a person, like a specter, ghost that's in a full, was Egon. So I wasn't necessarily a fan of them doing it for anybody else.
Oh, we also had the woman lady at the beginning of Ghostbusters 2016.
Yeah, that and then she turned into, but they usually turned into something like, other than Egon. So I wasn't necessarily a fan, but it didn't really do anything for me. I do like the little bit.
You want a more monstrous ghost.
Yeah,
rather than just a specter.
Yeah. I think that their little romance was cute, and it makes sense that, of course, Phoebe would have a romance with a ghost.
Now, I will say I was a little bit concerned at first just because I was worried that they were going to have a whole storyline about feeling sympathy for the ghosts. Because this whole time they're getting kind of indiscriminately capturing and putting away the ghosts, right?
Yeah.
So the first time I saw Melody and I was like, Phoebe's like interacting with like a friendly ghost, that she would be like, hey, ghost-busting team, like,
let's stop.
Let's raise this moral question of like, should we be busting ghosts indiscriminately? Like, should we like maybe like find out like what their deal is first and try to resolve an issue? And while I don't think that that's a bad path to go down, I just get a little concerned at how weighty and complex that moral stance is.
Yeah, like how would you discern each ghost? I mean,
and that would just complicate things, and I feel like that would have to be written so specifically.
Yes.
And even if done right, like that would change like the future of like how ghostbusting goes.
Well, because like if you think about it, the majority of the ghosts that we interact with are people like or ghosts like Slimer and Stay Puft, or like the little cute little like man that we get in the Ghostbusters team at this one. That's like the kind of one, the brown ball that looks like a moss.
Too, like Slimer for the most part seems kind of like it's not like he's torturing anybody. It seems like he's for the most part
he's harmless, but he's messy.
A harmless ghost, and so like, but aren't the Ghostbusters like kind of trying to imprison him? Into this, like, does Slimer deserve that? You know what I mean? And so, like, that in general, whether he does or doesn't, that whole conversation is so messy to me.
If I'm going to be honest, he's cost some people and places a lot of, like, resources by eating all their food. So they do need to put that man away and give him some
now
ghosts.
You're raising a question about, like, homeless people in America. Can't you say the same thing about that situation?
Okay.
That's different. That's not the same thing.
That's what I'm saying, but this
They're ghosts.
Oh man, yeah, they're
The
homeless
ghosts.
people.
Oh, so
Who cares?
ghosts aren't people too?
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying.
They're spirits, technically.
So I was worried when we first saw Melody that's the kind of conversation that this movie would be based around, like the morality of it all. And I'm just like, when we're watching a Ghostbusters movie, I don't think that needs to be up for grabs at all.
No,
I think we're just
shouldn't.
here to have fun.
Yeah.
We're here to bust some ghosts and not worry about any of that.
Now, I don't like that they also like made you. I mean, because that's the only thing is like this movie was really long, which I didn't mind because it didn't feel like I was in the theater that long. But this character, like, we're meant to like feel some sort of sympathy for in general because she's young, and then like there's this like sweet little romance between her and Phoebe and stuff. But it's like the manipulation. I don't like that they did that, and it's just because she wants to be with her family. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't feel for it. I don't care about this character because we just now met her.
I think part of it too is feeling sad for Phoebe. And like her whole situation throughout the movie is that she's been kind of disconnected and she feels like she's not being heard. A very relatable like teenage experience or whatever. And here's this person that finally is listening to her and then she's finally bonding with, and then it turns out she's being taken advantage of. Yeah. So I think it's more so for Phoebe's character for us to, you know, feel sad for like what she just went through. And I will say something that I did like about their relationship is finding this relatable thing about like Phoebe bonds with Melody so much that she steps into a dangerous experimental machine that allows her to separate her spirit from her body, like her lifeless body, risking her life just to spend 2 minutes in the same space and atmosphere as Melody.
I do have a question for you. Would you ever step into one of those machines?
Easily, yes.
I would too. That sounds so fun.
But I'm just saying, like
imagine you're a ghostie and you could just go whoo, like swimming around in the air.
Specifically though, for
the particles.
Similarly to Phoebe, I feel like we've all done like stupid things,
reckless things,
for the sake of love. You know, for like, I like this person so much, I'm gonna do this stupid thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about like when you're young and like you're a teenager. You think it's okay to mold yourself to appear more attractive to them. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what people tell you. Like,
or lie to your
they
parents.
don't like me the way that I am. I need to make myself more, more on their speed, what they like. Mm-hmm. Then that way they'll like me. But it's like, that's not, no. As a teenager, we're stupid. We have stupid teenager brain and stupid hormones going through our bodies.
But even as an adult, though, I feel like, I don't know. I think the whole phrase, like, the stupid things you do for love, I think it's true. And I mean, we see it in romance movies about like characters taking a flight from this country to that country, or like showing up at the airport last minute to like, you know, express your love or whatever.
I mean, I'm not going to say that stuff doesn't happen in real life, but I feel like it doesn't happen as much as it happens in the movies.
Not unless you're rich.
No, yeah, that's true. Because who has the time? Like, I got to go to work. What do you mean? Like that kind of stuff. Like, we'll deal with this later.
Oh, wow.
You know
really?
what I mean?
So you don't think you'd find yourself in a situation where like, oh, like there's this thing that's happening tonight and it could be, but I work tomorrow morning, but this thing tonight could be a big deal. You know, I'm going to screw work tomorrow, even though it's like a big day. The fucking VIPs are coming in or whatever.
Sir, I have both ADHD and anxiety. I can't just man. I have to like at least have some sort of game plan. I planned for hours. I had a dentist appointment at 7 a.m. So I had to plan, I'm going to wake up at 5:30 and then I have to shower and then I have to leave my house by 6:30, 6:35 at the latest. Like I had to like map that out. Otherwise I was not able to. You know what? I was actually early today and I was proud of myself. I sat on the parking lot for like 15 minutes.
Yeah. I've never been early for anything. Now I got to say, maybe I'm projecting a little bit. I'm a very passionate person. I like to think of myself as a romantic. So maybe something about that, just this was so relatable to me.
I think people do romantic things. Like, if I hear my partner say they really like something, then I'll be like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna remember that, and then I'm gonna go out of my way to get that. And then whenever I give it to them, I'm like, I got you this amazing thing.
But the peril, though, that like Phoebe puts herself in is like, like I said, she leaves her lifeless body. Like this is risky and dangerous for her.
For example, what's the word? Adrenaline. Same thing with the dopamine, kind of like on the same level with that. You want to feel that dopamine rush that the person gives you, but you also want to, I don't know, the heart flutters, butterflies, all the things. You know, you get on a crazy roller coaster, you ride a crazy motorcycle with that person, like Bella Swan from New Moon when she's missing Edward, just to feel something in the absence of that person, especially when we get our heart broken. That's when, like, I feel like the recklessness comes out even more. Like, oh my God, I will do anything to get you back.
Yeah, for sure.
So I understand, but I would do the same thing though with the machine. I would do it single.
Yeah.
I would do it sober.
See, I would not.
It sounds cool.
I do it for love, you know. That's
not for love. I would just do it for fun.
Bailey?
I don't know if I would do it. It depends on if it was deemed to be safe or not.
No, it's not safe.
Then probably not. I'm a little too terrified of becoming a ghost. But on a little bit of a darker side, I thought it was really interesting that they went this route with Phoebe because it's just the entire movie is about her being a teenager in a very realistic way, I think. And we already know that I relate to Phoebe. So the way that she creates this connection with this character who seems to be the first and only person that understands what Phoebe is going through, and it happens to be a ghost, because of course it's a ghost. And then Phoebe's, there's like that lack of like true connection there because of that. And then that Phoebe decides like, hey, I'm going to turn myself into a ghost temporarily. I'm not saying that I felt this way, but I know a lot of other like gay teenagers who have felt similarly, and I feel like this is just one step away from her being like, I would literally kill myself to be with you, because she was like, they didn't commit to that, but I'm just saying it was just one step away from that in a literary sense. And like Phoebe was like shunned by her family, she's never had friends, like she's not able to do what she's passionate about because of all these driving forces, she doesn't feel understood. Like, I mean, that and obviously people will say this isn't a romance, but it was very gay.
No,
they were not friends.
1000%. The way that they looked at each other, I was like, whoa.
I agree with you.
What's happening here? I can feel the vibes. I agree with what you're like. It kind of gives me American Horror Stories vibes, or even American Horror Story vibes in some way, because anything related to the Murder House series, they have several links to it in that universe. People often will find a ghost that they're like, oh, I want to be with you.
What is this if not the modern Casper the Friendly Ghost?
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, yes, the one with Christina Ricci as a child, and
the one that Franklin still hasn't seen. Yeah,
Casper he was a beautiful ghost.
I think it's really cool that you mentioned, Bailey, the whole thing about like, I'm willing to kill myself just to be with you, to touch you.
That's all that I was thinking of during that scene. I was like, they're downplaying this. Yeah. And I was like, that's what they mean. Is like, she is like an angsty teenager who like would have done it. And
I really appreciate that. Like, that speaks to me on a deep level. And McKenna Grace in an interview jokingly said, oh yeah, that was very Romeo and Juliet of me. And
exactly.
I think that's right. Yeah, that is kind of like a good comparison.
It's very the lyrics sung by Meatloaf. I would do anything for love,
but I won't do that.
But
I would.
But
without love.
What is he talking about? What is the thing he won't
That's
do?
the joke, Frank.
Is it a joke? I don't think it's a joke.
It is a joke. It's in Rocky Horror. It's a joke.
That's not in Rocky Horror.
But he is in Rocky Horror.
He is in Rocky Horror, but he says, rock and roll my soul.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That's just a Meatloaf song. He's an artist outside of...
Yes. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh, do not mansplain Meatloaf.
I thought that song was in Rocky
No.
Horror.
What is he talking? It's not a joke. He's being genuine. I just want to know what he won't do.
It is still a joke, though.
No, it's a love song.
I know it is, but I think that was like a cheeky joke.
What do you think,
He
Darren?
never answered the question.
I don't know.
No,
I don't care. I thought it fit perfectly. I didn't mean to spark anything.
Another theme about this movie I thought was fatherly love.
Loved this theme.
Gary Gruberson is asked to be less of a friend and more of a parent this time around. Callie needs a more firm grasp on her children, and Gary isn't exactly their stepdad. He's still kind of just like a family friend, as far as things are concerned. As shown in a scene early on with the now mayor, Walter Peck, Dickless himself.
Yes.
With the consent of Callie, Gary shows he can lay down the law and gets, in my opinion, uncomfortably stern with Phoebe for getting arrested halfway through the movie. And I mean, it's realistic, but I was like, oh wow, like they really went for it.
You know what's funny with it is that your parent, as Callie mentioned in the previous film, I just want Phoebe to get into some trouble. It's like, girl, you done said it, because now she's getting into trouble. She's getting in all kinds of trouble.
That was my mom with me, hardcore.
Yeah, she wanted you to get into some trouble.
But then once you get into trouble, then they're like, what are you doing?
I never got into trouble.
Yeah, I thought it was really sweet, though. I something that I am impressed about this movie is that we got arcs for all these different characters. I mean, we just talked about Phoebe and the ride that she went on, but you know, Gary here goes through his own little journey about like what it means to be a father.
Yeah. As somebody who grew up with, you know, different parental figures and stuff, my parents being in different long-term relationships at some point, I have the coolest bonus dad now. And I feel like he's so sweet that sometimes he can't be like mean to us or stern, but now we're all adults, so it's a little bit different. Even feel like growing up, he wasn't ever like able to get to that point, unless it was with my brother, because my brother could be a shit. But like he needed to be stern because like my mom didn't want to have to be the bad guy all the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a tough position to be in because it's like these are not your kids, but you also want to stand up for your partner.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we're well into our 20s now, but still, like I'm watching this and I kind of feel like the curtains being drawn out from behind me a little bit, seeing a little like peek of what it is to be a parent. I'm not a parent, and I never thought about that. Where Callie's like, "Yeah, I need you to be meaner to my kids."
Yeah.
That is interesting. I never thought about that being a scenario people find themselves in.
I mean, if I put myself, like, I'm thinking back to how I was 10 years ago, you know, as a teenager, full of hormones, full of, you know, angsty emotions as well. Like, I could be a shit. I could be a total, like, asshole. And, like, sometimes I really need to be put in my place, and I deserved it.
Yeah, I can relate to this by when I was a substitute teacher. I substituted high school most frequently, and it's like you want to be the cool guy because you want them to like you, right? And not in like a, oh, I want their attention kind of a way, but just in like, oh, I remember being a teenager. I remember what that's like. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to relate to them and let them know that I see them as a person first, right? And all of those things can be true, but also sometimes they're little shits. And you have to make a decision. Like, you cannot be the cool guy all the time.
Yeah.
You have to find a line of being like, you're not their friend. They need to respect you as an authority figure. But at the same time, you can be a nice authority figure, but finding that
is it hard?
Is really hard.
I feel like it is hard because especially now,
they don't want to respect you. You have to make them respect you. And then that's really hard without, you know, crossing boundaries. Especially
in this scenario where it's a stepfather. I mean, you don't have any natural authority of being their teacher. It's like you're just some dude.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that this generation is specifically going to have a lot more of a difficult time. I can't use my words today with parenting because, from my experience, I grew up getting spanked, you know, getting my butt popped for being bad. I know that I don't want to do that with my children because I did not like that. But I know that they there's like a weird line there because now we have like these gentle parenting.
Yeah.
And some people were like, that doesn't do anything. But there is a fine line where gentle parenting can be like, you can still make them respect you, but not being like a passive parent. There's a difference between being like a passive parent and just letting your kid do whatever. I think that people mistake that.
I think that's a big criticism of like millennial parents and, you know, the whole generation of iPad kids or whatever. The iPad didn't come out for me until I was, you know, already going to school, already doing all this stuff or whatever. But now you have a bunch of kids from the moment they were like, I don't know, a year old.
Yeah.
They were handed a tablet.
You know what's funny? The way that the kids stand when they have an iPad. Like, they always will have, like, their hands on, like, the couch or whatever, and then, like, the rest of their body is just, like, at an angle, and then they're, like, coughing on their tablet. Like,
it's so funny.
Like,
it's so funny that you're both talking about this, and you're both using your own iPads.
Yeah, we're both iPads.
I'm an iPad
like,
kid.
we're not iPad kids. Meanwhile, reads from iPad.
How about you, Jeralyn? Have you ever put thought into, like, if I had kids... Like, how long until I give them their own phone, their
oh my
tablet?
God, I've thought about that myself. Even with I have like a niece as well, and you know she's getting into video games, and I love that. So we can connect on that. So I'm like, oh, like I would love to get her like her own little Switch Lite at some point. But then I'm like, she's really young. I probably need to wait till she's like 10.
Yeah.
Because one, I don't think I got my first DS until I was like 10 or 11. So. And did I take amazing care of it? No. But I also got a Game Boy before then, too, I think. And I also did not take great care of that. But you know what?
But it lasted a long time, didn't it?
It sure did. It did last a long time, and it did the trick.
Yeah. Well, by the end of the movie, Phoebe heartwarmingly calls Gary Dad. in
Very
passing.
sweet.
Yeah, very
Very
sweet.
sweet.
Leaving a smile on his face. And so he had his little arc, and I'm happy for them, and I'm happy to see them as a family. Something I liked about this movie too is we got to see so many people in flight suits, like so many Ghostbusters all together in one room. And it really goes
So
to
many.
show like we've gone from the 4 Ghostbusters in the first movie to like this whole like multi-generational.
We can
batch of
have our own
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters universe with
Basically, yeah.
what they've introduced
Yeah.
with this
That's what I
film.
want to do, and I love that Melnitz got her own suit. I wish
Oh,
that we got
man.
to see her do more, but I was like, yes, thank God they put Melnitz in a suit.
That was so cool. And they even gave Bill Murray a line to be like, oh, Janine in a suit. And I love it.
The only criticism I have of this is where the hell is Louis Tully?
Well,
I know that Rick Moranis has not been acting for a long time, but if he has, it's been like voice
Mm-hmm.
acting.
I mean, he
like-
has an
like that.
open invitation. If he's not in the movies, it's because he doesn't accept it.
But I want him to be back. I want it for me. Do it for me. Sorry.
Do it for Jeralyn.
Just do it for me.
Somebody who is in the movie and featured a little more prominently, both Ray and Winston
Yeah.
are in this movie a lot more this time around. They're not just cameos, like they're
Yeah.
in the story throughout. Winston's introducing us to this whole new department of Ghostbusting.
Which that's where we picked up last time, or like left off last time,
Yeah.
is that he has been funding this. So we get to see more of what he's been doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's kind of like a research and development kind of department for the Ghostbusters. They have
and
actual
engineering. We
they
see
have
some
actual
engineers.
ghosts that they're studying and where they're developing these new things, and it's really cool. Ray, meanwhile, is kind of reliving his ghostbusting years a little bit in a way, and Winston kind of criticizes Ray for this, saying, you know, like, those days are behind you. This isn't safe. Like, you can't really be doing this anymore.
Well, to be fair, they are old.
They're
However,
older.
Winston looks damn good for
He
78.
does, and Ray still has the heart for it. You know, he says he can't stop, and that this is what he wants to spend his golden years doing, and that's why they call him the heart of the Ghostbusters.
I know. It's like he was the heart of the Ghostbusters again. Egon was the brain of
Yeah.
it, and I would say Venkman was the mouth because he ran that mouth too
Yeah.
much, and of course Winston is really just like I don't know. He's just kind of.
I mean, we call in the first episode we call him the soul, but in Afterlife at the end of the movie he refers to himself as the sex appeal, which I thought was really
that's
funny.
Well, that's what he's here for then.
I would argue that Bill Murray is the face of the Ghostbusters, or
Yeah.
Venkman is, and that Winston is the backbone,
Okay,
or the foundation.
He is the spine.
I really like him.
exactly. And you know, I love that they kind of came together with. Once again, almost all of these characters have arcs of some sort. Ray and Winston have their own arcs, which we don't get to see in the previous movies. And just in general, we get to see the old Ghostbusters come together and be like, hey, this is our golden years. We do not have to stop living our dream, you know, and doing what makes us passionate. And I actually do think that that's a really nice statement to see in this kind of a movie, because we're so used to seeing, like, the passing of the torch. And they've done that, but it's not like they have to, like, do nothing now. And especially after, you know, all the trouble that we had in previous Ghostbusters movies with Bill Murray saying, like, kill my character off, I don't want to do this anymore. You
So
know, whatever.
dramatic.
It's a breath of fresh air to kind of see them be like, no, we do like this. You know, even
Yeah.
if I don't know how Bill Murray feels about it, or any of the other actors really, but it's nice to see the characters at least be like, no, this is what we're meant to do. We love working with each other. We're a family, you know?
For sure. And I mean, like, we're like Ray Stantz specifically. I appreciate so much that, you know, they, like Jeralyn said, they are older. And I feel like in a world where right now we kind of feel like we have to work until we die.
We do.
Like retirement is kind of fading away into like a make-believe thing.
But we also, I work with our older generation a lot of the time. We also treat them or like put them to the side, like almost treat them like they're not capable of doing
sure.
things
Yeah, exactly.
anymore, and it's not true.
And to have this movie where it shows like a couple older characters and saying like, no, like that doesn't have to be the case. I am going to live my dream. I am going to still be sufficient in some way or another. I think that's very heartwarming. And,
it is. It's a really nice message.
and very characteristic,
especially if it's something that you enjoy and you're passionate about.
which Ray is. And I think it's very characteristic of him, and also just of Dan Aykroyd and like what he represents. And here's a short clip of him talking about himself and Ghostbusters.
But Dan, I love the backstory of Ghostbusters, how it came to be. Can you just share briefly how this...
My great-grandfather was a dentist in Kingston, Ontario, and he was the reviewer of the psychic acts that would come through town. Levitators, precipitated painters, seers, psychics, all that. And he would, like, review them for the local paper. And so we had seances in the old farmhouse in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, 50s before my time. And so it's kind of like my family business. I just grew up with that, reading all the journals and reading about his work. And so it kind of came out of my family background.
Stuff. You inherited all this.
I inherited the family business of. They're mostly into mediumship, trance channeling, and that. And if you had to ask what my religion would be, it's spiritualism. I believe not only in the survival of the soul and the spirit energy after death, but the survival of the consciousness. That you can identify someone from the other side with a good trance channel medium, and you can talk to those who've gone before.
I love it. It's full circle, baby.
Yeah. It's just so sweet that, like, you know, Dan Aykroyd isn't just a full believer in, like, the Ghostbusters, but in just the whole spiritualism thing. And that means as a writer, as the creator of this whole franchise, it comes so internally from him, from the heart.
Yeah.
Like, he's genuine about all this stuff. Well,
like, there are so many skeptics out there. And so when people, you know, even mention that they believe in ghosts and stuff, I feel like people want to believe in it. I feel like people want to believe that, you know, but I think they get really scared by that idea. Mm-hmm. But when they see it on screen with Ghostbusters, it's like a fun way where they're like, "Oh yeah, no, that's fun. Yeah, I believe in ghosts," kind of thing. But no, but people don't really, and I feel like it's to be that bold and say, "Yeah, I believe in this specifically," and that you know, you're not just dead when you're dead.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that because I am also a spiritual person and I believe in all of that kind of stuff.
And he is a true believer, and you know, he kind of plays an extension of that in the Ghostbusters, and that to me just makes the character and the franchise all that more endearing
and lovable.
Yeah, you know, Bill Murray's there and he's kind of cracking up
jokes
a little bit while while Dan is telling his story or whatever. I don't know if you noticed too, but it's the jacket that Bill Murray's wearing, it's like a white jacket
with all of the names.
All the names besides his own. So it says Aykroyd, Ramis, and Zeddemore on it.
That's really funny.
Yeah, I don't know, like
I wonder how much he hates it. You know, I do appreciate that, you know, he being so adamant about Ghostbusters 2 and was like, I'm not going to be part of this unless I get $10 million, blah, blah, blah. I have to approve all the future shit, blah, blah. Like the little tantrum that he threw, but continues to show up in future films. Yeah. Like, I wonder, like, if that had anything to do with, like, the less screen time that we got this time, which I'm happy about because it kind of, you know, knowing this, it kind of changes the way I view him.
Me too. I mean, I think a lot of it is honestly Harold Ramis's passing. And I think that really changed things up for. I think he got humbled a lot and like just really put things into a perspective that isn't just all about him. And to me, I don't know too much, but just based off the movies and how he's been interacting in interviews and stuff, like he's redeemed himself for me. And I mean, it takes time, and I mean this is a 40+ year franchise, you know. So I props to Bill Murray for the path he's been on and how long it took him to get here, you know.
I just wonder why, like, I mean, that's strange for him to be wearing a Ghostbusters jacket himself with everyone's name but his own.
Well, I don't think that's a slight. I think that's actually like these are the people I love. And like, I'm not even gonna put me on, like, because he's known for being egotistical.
1000%.
So like, yeah. What if the first name on there was Venkman?
That'd be perfect.
But no, that's what I thought too, and it took me a while to notice that it was just everybody else's, and I think that's sweet actually. Like he's paying a tribute. I mean, Harold Ramis isn't even alive, and it says that Spangler is the very first one on the jacket.
I mean, props to him. I'm still a little bit mad at him, because we could have had more Ghostbusters. We could have been developing this franchise even further.
Yeah, but you know, the drama in life, you know, that's what happens.
Yeah, and like ultimately, we don't know the full context.
It's true.
Like,
we weren't involved.
We're not entitled to a movie.
But Bill Murray, I just want to talk.
So I'm not going to condemn him for what I think was a dick move.
For sure.
But, you know.
I will.
But regardless, you know, the past is in the past. I'm grateful that we're getting more movies.
Me too.
I'm grateful that we do get to see Venkman, and I hope that he enjoys filming it, you know, for everybody's sake, including his own.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're having a good time. If you're not, don't fucking do it. Just say no. Just say no.
Yeah. We got a couple new characters in this movie. I feel
We
like
did, and I loved them.
the Ghostbusters family just keeps on getting bigger and bigger constantly.
Bigger and better, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, I already love the cast
Yeah.
as we had it. I will say, like, Logan Kim as podcast. Oh my gosh, I was like, holy crap!
Broke my heart. He's so grown now.
Yeah, he's a lot older for sure. Yeah,
I was like, wait, that's podcast?
yeah, he's like,
Still just as hilarious as ever. Love his character. I hope we still get more podcasts because I love him.
as far as new characters, we get James Acaster. He's a British comedian, actually. I don't know if you know that.
I did not know that.
He plays like an engineer
Yes.
at the new Ghostbusters Department of Research and Development.
His name is Lars Pinfield? Is
Yes,
that right?
Dr. Lars Pinfield. Yep.
Love it.
I love
we
his,
get,
I
we
love
get
his
these new.
character. He was great.
We get these really cool names.
yeah, I love his jacket too. He wears like a blue jacket, and his logo is like a gear. with
Yeah,
the
I love his
Yeah.
logo. It's a gear instead of the normal, like, just circle. It's
Circle,
great.
See,
yeah.
I love that we are actually like developing more into this Ghostbusters universe, and I hope that we can only dive deeper into it, and maybe even potentially in the future, because I know that everyone's like going into the limited series and stuff like that. But that's where you can really, instead of making a 10-hour film, you can just make like 10 1-hour-long episodes
yeah.
and like develop
like
your
it.
story even further. Like, I would love to see that, especially as a big fan. Like, I want to watch you like study your ghosts. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's sick. And did you guys notice Lucky also had a different outfit? She was in a
Yes.
red jumpsuit and she had like a white logo, like a white and black logo. It was great.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool.
It was very cool.
We also get Camille Nanjiani in this movie.
I loved his character so freaking much.
It was so funny. It brought back to me the charming of the first one, having the whole gatekeeper
Yes.
and keymaster scenario, where like he is like the chosen one to, you know, handle the fire and keep Garaka at bay.
so funny. Like, he was literally like one of the funniest characters in this film.
Yeah, he was hilarious.
He was.
The funniest part to me is when he puts the whole getup on.
Yes.
And he comes sliding down the pole.
Oh God, it's so funny. And he's just his comedic timing was perfect in this film. I don't know if any of it was improv or whatever, but it was fantastic. Like, he was just so brilliantly funny. And I love the moment we get with him and Venkman. One of the funniest scenes in the movie to me.
I also love how he's paired off with Lucky and Trevor for
Yes.
a significant portion of the movie.
Yes.
Like, he's just with like these two like teenager new adults, and like they're just so silly goofy together. And he's supposed to be like this, like, oh, I'm the established adult in this situation, but
Yeah.
he's not established
not.
at all.
Yeah.
He's not a good role model.
It's very
silly.
relatable though, like seeing him trying to like light the candle or whatever. I mean, come on, like most of us would be in the same situation, right?
It's like barely moved,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "Oh, this is gonna take a while." But
Yeah.
unfortunately, at that point, they did not have a while.
No, they didn't. My favorite part was when they show it off. Like, don't worry, guys, look what we got.
Yeah.
He's trying to do it.
It's so funny. Like, it just, I don't know. I had a lot of fun with his character.
Me too. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about this movie. I just feel like, you know, we're talking about, you know, the whole golden years thing, the whole stepfather arc, the teenage romance, all these funny moments with like this diverse cast and new people being added into the world. Where
Yep.
like there's so many elements about Frozen Empire that mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I think altogether, the movie serves kind of more as an extension and not so much like, hey, look, we're telling another big story. It's not
Yeah.
about that.
No,
it's more
it's-
about just following where the Ghostbusters are now and furthering their
And
story.
where they're gonna go, because I mean, this honestly, like the way that they frame Winston as like this big like businessman, it almost feels like he could be the CEO of this big Ghostbusters
yeah.
empire, and it's really exciting because my man Ernie Hudson deserves to be the leading man after everything he's been through.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't disagree with you. This movie's doing okay so far at the box office.
is.
On a $100 million budget, it's made $177 million in a box office in its first month. So it's almost doubled its budget, which is fantastic news.
Great news.
I heard that Gil Keenan and Jason Reitman have both been having several more ideas for more sequels to come in the future. So hopefully we get some more. I love seeing these guys, and I want to see, like, it's just this movie's getting some criticism.
It is.
And I get it. I genuinely do, because I see what they're coming from. But like when I think about it and all the stuff that we laid out on the podcast today, there's so much good and there's so much substance in here.
Yeah, I would say the good definitely outweighs the bad.
Mm-hmm. So I'm really liking it. The villain, Garaka, I think was kind of just whatever.
Yeah, it was kind of blah. We don't have enough time to really... I mean, you get to see the original beginnings of it, but I mean, not really. You kind of see its interaction with the Fire Master, which is... So we get to see like Nadim's character, or like his ancestor being the Fire Master, fighting off Garaka and trapping it in this really intricate ghost trap, which is really, really cool. Very beautifully done. I would like to own one myself.
Yeah.
It's a collectible.
That's
it's
cool,
very
yeah.
cool. But I mean, and what they did in the beginning with like this room of businessmen, very cool. Like, so they set the scene that this is like this big frozen daddy kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, I don't feel much of a connection to this thing as much as we do with like any of the other villains. Because at least with Rowan, he had like a kind of decent backstory. I don't feel like
I will
Garaka
say,
did.
I don't think Ghostbusters is known for their strong villains.
Not really.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going there to see the villains. I'm going there to see the Ghostbusters.
The Ghostbusters.
Like the
I would like
closest thing to the villain that I care about is the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper, they're not even the main villains in either of their movies.
That's true.
So to me, all a Ghostbusters villain needs to do is provide context for the Ghostbusters to have either, like in this movie, the humor for the Fire Master to play up against, or in the first Ghostbusters, the humor for the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper to play up against. You know, I just think it needs to be a resisting force. So I don't think it needs to be like some like, maybe they got a point. The villain has to do this or whatever.
Well, I mean, I kind of would like to have connection to a villain. I like when people can write a really strong villain and then you kind of sympathize with them and you're like, because like at least when we discussed Ghostbusters 2016, we talked about like the potential for Rowan to be a very like strong villain, but like. So, of course, it missed the mark. But like you said, we go to see the Ghostbusters, not the villain. But I do like to see a good fight. And I feel like the fight was rushed. It was really, like, almost like, oh, yeah, we have to throw the villain in there. Like,
yeah.
You know what they should do? Is they should redo kind of Rowan's character. And instead, in this new world where we have a lot, like, we have a whole business for Ghostbusters, right? We should have, like, somebody who was like denied being a Ghostbuster.
Yes.
And they should become,
already on it. Yes.
Yeah, they should become, like they start becoming like an individual, like their own Ghostbuster. They try to start their own business or something.
Guys.
It doesn't work out, and then they get obsessed and become.
What if it's Louis Tully?
Ooh. That'd be so fun. I would love that.
Please, Ivan Reitman. Not Ivan Reitman. I'm so sorry. R.I.P. R.I.P. to a legend. Jason Reitman and Gil Keenan. Make Louis Tully your villain.
That'd be so funny. I would love that.
It would be like Incredibles.
He would be such a funny villain. Like, imagine him in Spaceballs.
Yeah.
And just like, yeah, that would be so good.
And it would be a fantastic like way for him to be like immersed back into the Ghostbusters world, and then maybe at the end they all become friends again, and they're like, "Sorry, Louis, we can give you a job here. You can be a Ghostbuster."
He can make a joke about how like I can make it look like you've been like not paying your taxes for the last decade.
Yes, I need the financial talk back. I need him to talk about it again. Oh man, I love that. It's a great idea, Jeralyn.
Hire me.
Yeah. All right, let's get into our ratings and final rankings for the season, Jeralyn.
Okay.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll kind of throw it off a little bit. I will say we didn't really get to talk much about the rest of some of the other characters. Some of my criticisms are going to be that we didn't get enough of an introduction as to why the hell they're back in New York. We're just kind of back in New York. I mean, even though this is clearly years later, because Trevor's character was 15 in Afterlife, and now he's 18.
Well, I guess that's where the ghost busting happens. That's where Winston has the whole setup for them.
Yeah, but
and
in my brain, I kind of want some sort of like smooth transition into this. Like, it doesn't have to be big. It just like enough like to address. They don't even address how they go from there to there. And I'm like,
it's been 3 years. There's a time gap. You
understand
You want to see
that.
what happens in the time gap.
I want to see what happens in the time gap. Take a little step back for me and reintroduce it, because I'm like, wait, okay, now we're in New York. Fun, I guess. However, I do like that the previous film was in Oklahoma and this one is back in New York. That is a nice little touch. But again, I also want Ghostbusting to happen around the world. Make it a global franchise. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, Bailey kind of expressed that, like, you know, with Winston having like a, you know, a Ghostbusters West and East and South, you know, and you see different.
Let me be a Southern Ghostbuster, baby. Like, we're so close to like one of the biggest like ghost stories.
I ain't afraid of no ghost.
A country rendition.
I ain't afraid of no ghost.
And they have like Johnny Cash.
They
as a
would
ghost
rip
show
off
up.
their sleeves.
Yeah.
With mullets.
That'd be fun. Would that not be
makes
fun?
me feel good.
Yeah.
Oh my
that
God.
would be fun. It would genuinely be fun. And I love the introduce of the Ecto-C, the Ecto-Cycle.
Yes, I loved it too. I was like, I want one.
Yeah, so now I'm like, I drive a Kia Soul. Don't make fun of me. I'm like, I'm going to make it the Ecto-K. We're going to be the Ecto-Kia. We're going to do it.
Love it. I'm on board with all of that. I will say I'm glad we got to see more podcasts. I liked the little like podcast and Ray interaction.
Yeah.
Oh, they work so well together.
Very sweet.
Very cute. And then we get mini puffs again, and they're just as chaotic as ever. And I love that podcast is still beating them up. It's just hilarious.
That just like blunt, like cut to him smashing things. Hilarious.
Especially because they're so cute. I'm like, oh, my heart.
Yeah, but his thing is like smashing things, genuinely.
True.
The watch is so fun. Like, sorry, the hammer gets
Oh
to
my
use.
gosh. Yes, that was so funny. I also love that we get a cameo from Patton Oswalt. It felt a little bit random, but I was glad that we got him. In my brain, I don't know why, I felt like we've gotten him before. But
No, he does seem like a
didn't.
natural in the franchise. For
Yeah,
sure.
he does. And I don't know why I thought there was more to him being in this franchise. Don't know. But I was really glad to see him. I liked his character. He was funny, even though it was short-lived. So hopefully we can see him again as like a cool colleague that people, like a trusted colleague that people can go to.
Oh, and the mayor coming back. I
mayor.
love how somebody
that.
called him Dickless in
the crowd
at the very
at the
end.
end.
That was so funny. Yeah.
Love it. I also love that we get to see Lucky again. I will say another criticism is how she went from fighting off, Gozer in Afterlife versus 3 years later. I want to know more of that backstory of how she got involved with, I'm still interested in this ghost busting. I want to actually go work at the research center.
Well, she said she got an internship.
I understand she got an internship, and she did say that, but that's not enough addressing it for me. I want to know,
It's just, I think, I don't know how long the movie is, like an hour 45. You kind of have to pick and choose. Like,
I understand that.
What do you want to include? What don't you want to include? You want everything.
Maybe
You want
even
the
like Star
extended
Wars.
cut.
Maybe like Star Wars, where they have like the rolling, rolling thing. I'm like, yeah,
And
just
they
give me.
did start with like almost like a rolling thing.
Did they?
It was a quote. Remember? It was like
Yeah,
That
the
was an explaining.
fire and ice.
but it was like a similar like situation.
But it wasn't enough for me. I need like Star Wars. Like, give me a little bit of a recap of what they did.
It's
That'd be
been
great.
3 years since Gozer took
Yes,
over Oklahoma.
please, because
You don't like being just dropped into a
No,
situation.
I don't, because it's kind of like, okay, what the hell's happening?
I kind of prefer that. I just, okay, where are we? Okay, we're doing this. Okay, I like the momentum,
It's very
sometimes
chaotic
when I
for
watch a
me.
movie and like it's like so much exposition up front, I get bored and I don't end up even watching the movie.
Well, I mean, it's not that I want all this exposition. It's just like, just address it a little bit, even just a little bit. I don't feel like they do that. They really just kind of like, you're in, and you're like, oh, fuck, okay. It's kind of like escape games where you're like in the room and they're like, okay, you have an hour. They don't give you, like, if they don't give you a backstory, the good ones do give you backstories. I liked Dr. Lars Penfield. He was fun. I liked that we got to see new ghosts. They were really cool.
Yeah, this movie did a good job of introducing like, the whole spot ghost that could jump and possess different things.
He was really cool. My favorite though was the cute little one who had the little troll mouth. He was
that
cute.
thing was not cute.
He was cute. I loved him. And then I love this interactions that we get between Callie and Trevor, because Trevor's like, I'm an 18-year-old. I'm an adult. I don't need any help. But in the last one, I felt like he was really trying to come into that, but now he's like, oh, I'm 18. I don't need help. And then he's like, Mom, there's something that I need help with. And she's like, I thought you're an adult. And then he's like, I am. And he goes and does it himself, and it's Slimer.
And see, that's what I appreciate.
Love it, we got Slimer again.
It's like even that's a tiny little arc, that Trevor goes on into becoming an adult. And that's what I appreciate this movie, because it cares about its characters. And I think that's so much of the appeal about this movie. Maybe it's not a great film, maybe it's not a great narrative, but the characters are strong.
Yeah, they
I
really
would
are.
argue that it is a great film and a great narrative, personally. I can understand criticisms for it. I have criticisms for it, but I don't think that makes it bad.
It's not bad.
No, I don't think anybody's saying it's bad, but several people are saying it's just okay, which I kind of agree with.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's just okay. Like, I still think the production
I would
quality...
say the first Ghostbusters is just okay. I love it, but
I can't
what
agree with
plot? What character development?
There's none.
There's so much. What are you talking about? I also don't like that we didn't get Sigourney. Maybe she was busy doing the Avatar movie, because that did come out in like the same kind of time frame a little bit. That was a long time too between the filming, especially because those James Cameron movies take like decades or something. Fucking long ass movies. I think that's kind of all that I felt like I needed to address. Of course, Janine, we get her again. We get the mayor again. I love the continuity there where they bring back the people, but we also get to expand a little bit more. I want more expansion. Keep at that rate. I love it. Again, I want more Firestarter. Keep him in the franchise. He's funny.
Hilarious.
He's so funny. Like, I cracked up so much at how goofy he was. And it was literally just me and Patrick in the movie theater, and then a couple literally directly behind us, and that was it. And I felt like I was laughing the most out of everybody in that theater.
How would you guys feel if they make a new like Ghostbusters series, either like a TV show or a movie series, where they expand like overseas?
I would love it.
Maybe we get some of these Ghostbusters in like Scotland or England.
Yeah, I would love it.
I would love to. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I would love to see like different ghosts from different like cultures and stuff too. That'd be fun.
Yeah. My only concern with the franchise is I think they really need to watch their demographic, their budgets, because I think everything operates on a thin margin now.
Yeah.
And I'd be concerned that if they stretch themselves too thin, they'll end up in the same situation that like Marvel and Star Wars have ended up in, where like they've put out so many movies, so many shows that like people aren't. I mean, the last like few Marvel movies bombed.
They're not keeping up.
Last few shows people didn't watch. I'm just worried that like maybe we should all put our eggs into one basket. And if we have like a TV show and a movie, and it's like, do you have this group of Ghostbusters and that group of Ghostbusters, that it's going to lose its audience somewhere or another.
I don't disagree. I think they should put their eggs all in one basket. I just think that, if following the same path that they've been following with like, okay, we're reintroducing Slimer, the Ecto-1, we've got the original Ghostbusters, we're all in New York, you can only beat a horse so many times before it dies and people get annoyed, so maybe I wouldn't mind them expanding into newer territory. I thought the last movie, Afterlife, was super refreshing that it was taking place in Oklahoma, even though we were visiting these familiar tropes with the Keymaster and the Gatekeeper and Gozer and stuff like that.
But that's another thing, like, is how people, I mean, at least not a lot of people in my experience complain about receiving new Scream movies. But I do feel like there's a formula to them, and that's why they're so successful, is they kind of copy-paste their formula. We know what's going to happen. It's kind of the same thing. And I feel like Ghostbusters is similar in that aspect, where we kind of know...
People have their expectations.
And if you kind of step outside of that box, sometimes it's refreshing, and sometimes it may not be as successful. I do want more locations, different locations. I am a little bit burned out on New York. I love New York. I don't have a problem with New York, but I would like that the last one took place in Oklahoma. I didn't think I would enjoy it just based on the trailer, because I am a cynic. But when I watched it, it was one of the best ones, in my opinion. And I understand exactly what your criticism is, because I wouldn't want to get burned out on the Ghostbusters. I wouldn't be like, again, a new movie, or, oh my God, I can't keep up. Because that's how I feel about Marvel, is like, I can't keep up. Like, I got caught up on WandaVision like years after that show came out. Amazing show, but took me years to watch it. And I still haven't seen some of the newer movies, because I'm like, okay, there's way too many, and I'm like, information overload kind of thing. Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and give my rating for Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, I didn't really do well at giving my rating. I just kind of talked.
I think I've pretty much said everything that I feel about this movie. I just feel like the characters are so strong, and I'm here for them. You know, a lot of people get concerned, like, can you have a Ghostbusters movie without the original crew? Like, so people who don't like the new people, they're like, oh, they aren't the real Ghostbusters. Like, they are not actual Ghostbusters. It's just this whole different thing. And I disagree with that. And I'm sad. I don't even need, I love seeing the original people here, but I do appreciate all the new cast as Ghostbusters. And for that praise is that's all I need. As his characters are strong, I'm happy. I'm happy to continue having just adventures with this crew and seeing how they grow up and how they develop.
Similarly, just gonna say that with our experience with these new characters is very similar to how we felt about the Scream franchise when they were like, oh my God, how are they gonna have a Scream movie without Sydney? It was perfect, even without her.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
I think it's just a new path, to tread on. And Camille Nanjiani himself said that the filmmakers drew a lot of inspiration from the animated series and said they wanted to make like a long episode of an animated series. And I kind of feel like that's kind of what we got. We got like this adventure that they went on. The stakes were high, of course, but they didn't. I mean, we're so used to like world-ending stories that if we don't take them too seriously, even though it's world-ending, the stakes don't actually feel as high as that would entail. So
yeah, if this was a 2D animated movie from the early 2000s, kids would have ate it up. Like,
for sure.
It would have been beloved, like, immediately.
So I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really good. And I'm going to give it a 9. Number 5. Number 5, 2016's Ghostbusters. Number 4, Frozen Empire.
Okay.
Number 3, the original Ghostbusters. Number 2, Ghostbusters 2. And number 1, Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Hey.
So don't be mad at us. Afterlife and Ghostbusters 2, not everybody's favorite.
And again, we're not saying any of them are bad.
No, we like all of them. I mean, the lowest score we have here is an 8.
I mean, if we were ever to say something was bad, I think it was, Saw 5? That's the only one. If we haven't really said it was bad, though.
I mean, we said quite a few movies were bad. I mean, I got to be honest.
Texas Chainsaw number 2.
That season was rough.
The Texas Chainsaw season was a little rough.
The quality was just up and down,
It was. Nothing was. But we never outright say, oh my God, I hate this movie.
We'll get there eventually.
I hope so. I like when things are very rough.
New Year's Evil?
Oh no, I liked it.
Yeah.
It was very campy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And it was just a fun campy one.
It was bad for sure.
It was bad, and I would love to see it remade.
I loved how bad it was.
Yeah, it was so bad that it was good.
Yeah, and remade by that one guy.
Yeah,
Eli
remade
Roth.
by Eli Roth. That's my want.
Yeah. So here we are at the end of the Ghostbusters season. We've made a lot of friends along the way. This is the first time I've seen any of these movies, and I'm grateful to have become an acquaintance to all these people. I'm grateful to have seen this franchise, and I'm happy that I got to watch all these movies.
Did you have a favorite ghost?
Oh, a favorite ghost. Right off the top of my head, I would say the running ghost in Ghostbusters 2, where he's running around the track.
Yeah, that was funny.
And then they just catch him like a little spider web kind of thing.
That was really funny.
Yeah. Bailey, do you have anything to say about the end of this season?
Oh man, I got so attached to the Ghostbusters, and I really didn't think I was going to. Like, I had always grown up knowing about the Ghostbusters. My parents are fans, and I had seen bits and pieces of both of the first 2 movies. But, I didn't really think about it too awful much. And I assumed going into this, like, oh yeah, I'm going to like these movies, because I like other movies from the same era of the 80s, where it has, like, practical effects. It's kind of goofy and macabre. I love, like, Beetlejuice and stuff like that. And Rocky Horror. So I was like, I'm going to love the Ghostbusters. It's going to be great. But I didn't expect to have, like, such an emotional attachment to it. And, like, genuinely, I've seen people our age or a little bit younger who do deck out their cars to be their own Ecto-1s and, like, who do have, like, Jeralyn, like, a ton of memorabilia and stuff like that. And, I didn't think I was going to get to, like, that point of, like, fandom. But, like, I'm like, fully situated in it now. I'm like, yes, I want to be a Ghostbuster. I love these guys so much. Like, all of them, the old characters and the new characters. I love all of them. And, like, I don't know. I really wasn't expecting to be so entrenched, but I love them a lot.
Do you have anything to say?
We were reeling you in
about the end of this season, Jeralyn?
It's bittersweet. I'm really excited to see the future of the franchise. But we also have so many great things planned for the rest of the year. We have so much in store.
Got a lot to cover. Next few weeks, we'll be doing some Dead End episodes.
Yes, we will.
We'll be covering a couple of new movies.
Should we tell them?
Let's go ahead.
Okay. We'll be covering Abigail and...
Tarot?
Come on.
It's spelled like tarot.
It is. I probably would have pronounced it like that when I was younger, I bet. Some tarot cards.
Yeah, tarot cards. Do you guys want to reveal what the next series you guys are going to be covering
next season? No, let's save that a little bit, yeah?
Yeah, we'll save that. Maybe we'll announce it on one of the Dead End specials.
Yeah, we'll announce the Dead End.
Keep your eyes and ears peeled.
But thank you guys for joining us on this season. Jeralyn appreciates it. Look at all her memorabilia for the last time.
Now I have to go put it up in my shelf, which is not going to be fun.
Don't forget to comment and tell us who your favorite ghost is and your favorite Ghostbuster.
Yes.
Follow us on Spotify, and also please subscribe to our YouTube, and you'll get noticed whenever we put more videos out.
Yeah, if you like the video podcast, we have so many episodes to catch up on if you are just now joining in. So do that.
Yeah, go through our library.
Maybe soon we'll have merch and we'll have ideas and things coming your way. So, you'll get the exclusive stuff.
Yeah.
So
thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for joining us in this season. We'll see you next time.
We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Fright or Flight, a Live Oaks Village production. This episode was hosted by Jeralyn Johnson and Saul Alberto Arizmendi Ochoa. Editing and music composition by Saul Alberto Arizmendi Ochoa.